We can tell that we're in user mode right now by this prompt. We've got a greater than sign prompt on the router console, which means we can do some things, but we're not able to go in and do configuration. I would not be able to do a show run to look at the running configuration. I don't have the privileges right now. What we can do though is go into privilege mode. I can enter enable, and right now there was no password required to get into that privilege mode. You'll notice that I'm in privilege mode because of the pound sign prompt now. Now I would be able to do a show run command. As an example, I could go into global configuration mode and start setting things up on this router. For security purposes, we certainly want to password protect privilege mode. And we can do that like this. We can go into global configuration mode and we can say enable, and we've got a couple of options here. We could say enable password and then give a password, or we could say enable secret and give a password. We really should not be saying enable password anymore, because this is going to store your password in clear text in your running configuration. We're going to do enable secret. Typically we're going to say enable secret, and we'll enter the secret password, and I'll say it is Cisco. Now that I've done that, if we go back and look at the running configuration, you'll see that this secret is all scrambled up. Technically, it's not encrypted. This is not an encryption. This is a hash. An MD5, a Message Digest 5 hashing algorithm has been run on that password, and therefore it cannot be decrypted. However, you could do a brute force attack, and there are utilities out on the internet where you put in this hash string, and that tool will start trying all sorts of combinations and saying, well, if I run the MD5 hashing algorithm on the letter A and I get this 128-bit result, does it match? If it matches, then the password is A. If it's not A, let's try B. A through Z, and then let's try AA through ZZ, and then AAA through ZZZ, and on and on and on, which means that we can make this password a lot more resistant to brute force attacks if we make it a more complex password, using a combination of upper and lowercase letters, mixing in numbers as well, making it an alphanumeric string. And you're going to see the type of encryption or hashing here is type 5. In some of Cisco's newer iOS versions, you might also find a type 4, which makes your enable secret password even more resistant to those brute force attacks like I was talking about. But traditionally, we go into global configuration mode, we say enable secret, we give a password, and we should make it a strong password to resist against those brute force attacks, and that's going to add a level of security requiring someone to authenticate before they can get into the router and start doing administrative tasks. Have you ever left yourself logged into your email or maybe logged into your Facebook account, and then somebody came by and saw that you were logged in, and maybe they made a post or sent an email pretending like it came from you? It could be embarrassing, or it could be even worse. And many of us have learned to log ourselves out of our devices if we're in a public location where somebody doesn't come by and make some sort of embarrassing post on our Facebook account. But it could be even more destructive if we walk away and leave ourselves logged into a Cisco router. The great news is Cisco iOS can give us a safeguard against that. By default, if we're logged in, we're going to be automatically logged out after 10 minutes. We can adjust that time though. If we want to make it shorter, we can make it longer, or we can make it where we don't get logged out at all. If you're in a lab environment like I am right now, and nobody has access to this rack of equipment, just for convenience sake, you might want to say, don't ever log me out. Let me show you how we set this up. Remember that we can connect into the router via a console port, via the auxiliary port, or via the VTY lines, the virtual TTY lines. Let's remind ourselves of that configuration. We can do a show run, pipe to section, line, and I can go into any of these line configuration modes and specify what my inactivity timeout is going to be. In fact, I already have it set for line console 0. Notice that I have the command exec timeout 00. Well, the first parameter here is the number of minutes. The second parameter is the number of seconds for our inactivity timeout. But there's a special case here. When you set both values to 0, that does not mean that you get immediately logged out, but instead it means that the inactivity timer is turned off. you're not going to be logged out due to inactivity. That's probably not a great practice in the real world for live production equipment. Let's see how on our VTY line to set the exec timeout to, let's say, 5 minutes and 30 seconds, just to show you how to do the seconds. Let's go into line configuration mode for VTY04. Again, that's a range of 5 lines, VTY0 all the way through VTY4. And I can say exec-timeout, and context-sensitive help tells us that the first number is the number of minutes. I'll say 5 minutes. And we could press enter at this point. We don't have to specify a number of seconds, but we can. And if I wanted to specify 5 minutes and 30 seconds, I would say 5 space 30. Now let's go back and look at our line configuration mode. The way I was able to recall that previously entered command was by pressing the up arrow on my keyboard. That allows me to scroll through my command history, so I didn't have to type that in again. But we see it right here, exec timeout 530. That means if I have telnetted or secure shelled into this router, after 5 minutes and 30 seconds of no activity, I'm going to be automatically logged out.